Hello, and welcome to this week's Career Chat. We have Melissa Tidd with us. She is a librarian from a different library system. She's not with the Prince George's County Library System, but she's going to give us an overview of what it's like to be a librarian, her career path, her journey. And so we have some adults listening and some teens listening, Melissa. So um, please make sure your answers are geared towards both groups. Thank you for joining us today. So we're going to go
Mhm.
ahead and get started. So the first question is, what was your educational path from high school to where you are now?
So when I was in high school, I volunteered at my local library, during the summer reading programs. I'm in New York State, and then throughout like starting college, I started to be employed in a public library and as a page, and I worked my way up to the circulation clerk at the local public library over here.
Mhm.
And as I started to work there, and also with my volunteer experience, it started to rub off on me that I think this may be where I ultimately want to end up as a
Okay.
librarian. Um, so then, I mean, of course, with the library degrees, sometimes bachelor's degrees are hard to come by in that subject, but with my understanding that you can have a bachelor's in practically any subject in order to get a master's degree. You just had to meet certain criteria into the grad school that you wish to get your degree in. So and I got my bachelor's degree in communications, and then I found my way to Syracuse because both my bachelor's degree and my master's at Syracuse were online, because I
Mhm.
was also, in addition to my library job, I also worked full time for the county here,
Mhm.
to help, pay the bills and pay my tuition and all that. So, and then I found my way to Syracuse, and it was a great program. And then now I'm a librarian at the local community college over here in
Okay,
Orange County. So
great. So when you were a page, what were some of the things that you did as a page in the library?
usually, well, at that time, what they had us do was basically put books away, to the right section, and to also shelf read, making sure that everything was in order.
Mhm.
Um, and then I work. Then that was sort of part. Well, not sort of. It is part of the circulation department. But
Mhm.
then after a year, I ended up getting promoted to circulation clerk, which I actually got to work with the computers and the patrons to check their books out, and whatever items they want to out, check on their accounts, create library cards, etc. So
So when you were a page, you started off in high school or when you were in college?
I was technically, actually, I was actually in between high school and college, because
Mhm.
I took like breaks here and there from school for
Okay.
different reasons. So at this time, I was college age, so I was 20.
So mostly page positions require a high school diploma.
Well, I mean, we also have some students in high school
Hmm.
that have been pages. So basically, as long as you are old enough to work, that's basically the qualifications. They've hired, people from students to, adults. But I guess as long as you are legally able to work, and if you, want the job, they think you can do it, then
That's great that you brought that up because we have a lot of people who are in between jobs right now, and so knowing that people can get their foot in the door by taking a paraprofessional job such as being a page or a clerk. It's a great opportunity for people to get their foot in the door to see if they like working in the library. So hopefully someone in our audience may have an interest in working for the library and may look into some of those positions. So thanks for bringing that up.
Mhm.
Um, Next question is, How did you get interested in your profession? You told us a little bit about that earlier, but expand on that.
Well, it's funny because when I was volunteering,
Mhm.
a lot of people there, and even my mom, who used to work in the same library, she's since retired, but they were like, "Why don't you become a librarian?" And at the time, as a teenager, I was a little, I want to say I was sort of hesitant because in school I did have some issues with reading comprehension, so I didn't really like to read. Not that I
Mhm.
didn't like to read, but it was just hard dealing with comprehension in school. I mean, I've since gotten better, I would think, but then as I started to work, and see what the librarians actually do, I was like, oh, this actually seems like something interesting that I would like to do. And since then, I have started to read more like on my own, and I've gotten to enjoy it more. I mean, I don't read as often as I'd like, but I picked books that I would be interested in, and then I've enjoyed it. So, so yeah, it was just ironic how ultimately I was like, wow, you know what? I think I do want to be a librarian. I think that might be a good fit for me. So,
Okay, great. So, some of our listeners come to the library frequently. They love reading books, so maybe this is something they might be interested in, just, by coming in and, talking with staff, seeing what kind of customers we have. So I'm glad you brought that up. The next question is, how much time did you invest into getting to where you are?
oh, how much time did I invest? Definitely a lot of time. Again, with so many, there's so many different parts to it, from work, like it goes from working to a place that you love, and also working to also help, because again, I was doing two jobs, working to help pay the bills, help with tuition,
Hmm.
and then a lot, and I've done a lot of hands-on experience through a lot of libraries in my system too, and I've done programs,
Hmm.
like I've done trivia programs, um, and and then with school, when I actually finally got to grad school, there were so many hands-on, experiences you had. I had two internships
Oh,
in libraries, and also meeting many people. Even though the program was online, we did have to go up to Syracuse at least once for what they call an immersion, which at the
hmm.
time when I went, it was for a weekend. Now it's just for a day, but yeah, but it was such a great experience. Got to meet so many people,
Hmm.
and I think including you.
Yeah.
So, and it was just great, and it was also nice to get like more detailed experience on what a librarian can be like.
Hmm.
And this basically, I mean, let's say it ranged from like when I was 20 to when I graduated last year. I was 33, almost 15 years. I,
Hmm.
I mean, it was more than that because of my volunteer experience, but it was quite a quite a journey, quite a
Wow.
long journey. But and I couldn't believe when it finally like came, when graduation finally came. I was like, oh my gosh, is this really it? Like, and then I got the job where I'm at now within 3 months of graduating, because actually that was one of my internships, was
Hmm.
the college library over here.
Hmm.
So it was just
And you mentioned internships. So, for our younger viewers, an internship is where you go, usually work for free, to get some experience in your position that you're pursuing. Maybe you're in college and you're trying to get a college degree, or some high school students do internships just so that they can see what a particular field is like. So, if you are a young person, maybe that's something you can look into in the future or currently. If you're interested in a particular field, maybe you want to reach out to the company you want to work for and ask them, do they have any internship opportunities available? Sometimes during the summer, you can get just a summer internship where you work a couple of months just to see how you like it. Sometimes there's paid internships where you'll get paid a small fee to work or get some experience. It's a great way to learn about the profession. It's a great way to network with people. A lot of times, internships can lead to positions in the future. So, yes, thanks for mentioning that, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next question is what kind of obstacles did you face in the pursuit of your profession?
Obstacles. Well, I mean, of course, there are always obstacles. Obstacles can range from, either in school or even some personal obstacles. Um, it was just, let's see, to look back, to look back on like obstacles. Of course, sometimes like obstacles can be, you may feel stressed in school if you think a certain assignment's hard, but I feel like with perseverance and the will to succeed and to have and also have like a good support system too
Mhm.
is helpful. Um, and again, like with personal and again with personal obstacles, like let's say there's like money issue. Not that I really had money issues, but trying to figure stuff out. Um, and also I guess you could say time. Time was a little hard
Okay.
because there were times when I did work full time that I did have a full time school load too. So that was a little tricky. But
Mhm.
again, because of the support system I had and wanting to reach the finish line, it helped, conquer that
Mhm.
and get around it. So I think time was definitely the biggest obstacle, trying to manage everything, time management. So that was the biggest one I'd say, for my experience.
Yes, and it's great that you bring that up because you do have to invest in yourself. You know, when you're going after any career, you have to make the time, put in the effort to reach your goal. And also, you mentioned support system. That is extremely important. I know young people are watching are probably wondering, well, who's my support system? Well, it could be your parents, it could be a teacher, it could be a friend, but someone to kind of motivate and encourage you along the way is extremely important because when you're investing the amount of time it takes to obtain a degree or to do an internship or to get good grades, sometimes you feel drained. You're devoting a lot of time and energy and effort. And so you need someone to kind of cheer you on, to support you, to back you up, to motivate and encourage you along the way. So, right now, young people, you can build your support system. Maybe you already have these people in place, but you can tell them, hey, I need a little bit of encouragement every now and then, or hey, I might need to call you to lean on you to get support. So it's very important to build your support system early on. So thank you for that, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next question is what advice do you have for someone wanting to do what you do and be a librarian?
Well, for anybody, whether you want to be a librarian or whatever you set your mind to,
Mm-hmm.
just dive right in and go for it. um, you know, it and it never hurts to, to try something you want to try to do. And I mean, yes, it may be hard along the way,
Mm-hmm.
but because I just went in and went for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that, with any experiences you might have, like to be a librarian, if you want to volunteer to start out small, like just to make some contacts, and then just do your research too. Because you also want to find, the right place for you to get an education. May depend on Also may depend on your location, whether you want to be in person, well, I mean, right, when things go back to normal, in person, or even online. Like in my experience, online fit better. So just just do your homework, do your research, get some experience, and just dive right in and go for it. And I know once you finish, you'll feel like me, that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't, you'll feel proud of yourself.
Right.
You'll feel happy.
Yeah, so you brought up a couple of things. Do your research. It's very important. Early on, start looking into the career you want to go into, see maybe what requirements, maybe you have to have a degree. Maybe you don't have to have a degree just to start, working there. I know we talked earlier about being a page or a clerk. So maybe that's what you want to do. See if you really like the profession and want to go further and start off small. So yes, diving right in to see what's available, see what's out there. Trying to get an internship, like we've mentioned earlier, is also a way. Maybe speaking to some people who already work there is a way for you to gain more information and knowledge about the overall position. So yes, um, excellent tips for trying to learn about the profession. Next question is, where have you worked within the industry?
So I'm in New York. I'm in Orange County, New York, which is about 90 minutes northwest of New York City.
Mm-hmm.
So I've basically stayed within my system. I'm in Goshen, New York.
Mm-hmm.
So I've worked at the Goshen Public Library over here.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I've worked now for almost 14 years.
Okay.
In addition to my current job at Orange County Community College,
Mm-hmm.
which actually is where I got my associate's degree also,
Okay.
and where I interned. Um, so I'm still doing both jobs. And then I've also my first internship. The college was my second internship in my master's degree program.
Mm-hmm.
The first internship was at the Port Jervis Free Library, which is in the same system as Goshen. Our system's called, the acronym's RCLS, which stands for Ramapo Catskill Library System,
Okay.
where there's like 40 plus libraries over 4 counties that
Mm-hmm.
can interlibrary loan, with each other. Like if a certain library doesn't have the item, they can request it from another library in the same system.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll be, when you make the request, it'll be sent there within, well, if it's on the shelf, hopefully within a few days. I mean, sometimes if it's checked out or if there's a long list, you might have to wait a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yes, so that's those are basically where I've worked. And then I've done also other programs throughout other libraries in the system,
Mm-hmm.
like the Florida Public Library. And actually, we also have what's called the Orange Library Association, which every couple years, I don't know if they've done it recently, but they, about 10 years ago, the theme was Edgar Allan Poe, and there was a play that they put on about Edgar Allan Poe,
Okay.
and I was actually the lead.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was a fun experience too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so in a library, I've done things from plays to actual library work to librarian to programs. It's and it's all throughout. So and it's a great system, and not just this system, but also with the college. It's just a great place to work.
Okay. You mentioned programming. So a lot of people don't know that librarians come up with a lot of different programs. And tell us a little bit more about what that's like. What do you do? What type of programs you've done? I know you mentioned some theatrical programs, but what does that look like for
So
like?
I've also done a variety of trivia programs. The first program I've tried many years ago was like a Jeopardy like program, which
Okay.
I've done with my husband Cameron,
Hmm.
and that we had like a template of like like a quote Jeopardy board, and we actually had a buzzer system where they would buzz in and stuff like that. Um, and then I've also at Goshen, I've also done improv programs,
Okay.
which for those that don't know it, improv is, if you watch Whose Line Is It Anyway, basically it's acting that you make up off the top of your head. You're given a theme, and you just go for it. There's many different games that you can play. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
And then I've also done other trivia programs, both with my Port Jervis internship, and also I just did a Disney trivia program recently with Goshen, which right now our programs are online, so we do them through Zoom.
Okay.
It's with this app called Kahoot. If anyone knows that. Basically, you put the questions on the display, and then if whoever's playing has a device, either their computer or a cell phone, smartphone, you just go to the certain website, type in the code, and then you get the questions right on your phone or second device or something like that. Okay. So, because there's a lot of different types of programs now. Like, it's not just about books per se. Like, I mean, I'm talking like other programs that have been held. I haven't necessarily taken part in them, but I know other programs that have been held, or like, like maybe, well, no, of course this has to do with books, but we've had cookbook book clubs where you can actually make something, to bring from your cookbook recipe.
Okay.
And there's a lot of other, we've even had like a knitting program where you can just come in and knit. And actually we've also had a video game club too that have been, for teenagers and adults. Just a variety of different types of programs. And there've also been, I've also heard of, teaching someone how to use a computer.
Okay.
It's because, the libraries are so community based now that, you can do a program on, I don't want to say almost anything, but a lot of, different topics. So,
yeah, so it allows you to be creative. So being a librarian allows you to be creative. It allows you to pull people in from the community. You mentioned several different types of programs where you're teaching people things. So if maybe you have a passion for teaching people, but you may not necessarily want to be a teacher, maybe being a librarian is for you. If you have creative skills in acting, maybe you could bring that to the library and help people learn about acting, because you mentioned improv. So I'm sorry if I keep rubbing my eyes, but I have allergies.
Oh, that's
But yeah, so it's just a way for you to be creative. It's a way for you to be social. Being a librarian allows you to build and strengthen communities. It allows you to help people with lifelong learning. So yes, it's a great opportunity to use several different skills and be creative and work with people in various ways. So yes, that is great. Next question is, can you compare and contrast the different jobs you've had? You told us a little bit about it before, but I guess the different types of libraries you've worked in.
Yeah, because the only other jobs I've had like outside of libraries are tutoring, which is at the same college where I'm at now. And also I also used to work in the school district as a substitute teacher's aide. So, so I stayed in the same realm, like with education. So, so comparing and contrasting, I mean, definitely there's definitely different ways of doing things at all the libraries. And it's just a matter of adjusting to, this library allows you to do this library allows you to do that. At this library, someone may do this and others may do that. So, just to trying to juggle that. Sometimes it's not that hard to juggle, but because because I'm also, with the college, I'm in an academic library. So definitely public library and academic library are two different, definitely libraries. So, but sorry, I'm getting an internet alert. Hopefully I don't disappear. So anyway, I've had internet problems the last few days, but anyway, like with academic libraries, you help the students mostly. I mean, yes, some students do check out books, but it's mostly research based. Like if they need help with assignments, if they need help learning how to use databases, which public libraries, they do have databases, but I feel like, I mean, in my experience, from what I've observed, I've found that, you know, in academic libraries, databases are used more. I'm not that they're not used in public, but, you know, that's just, again, with my experience. And then, you know, and also at certain libraries, the librarian may do this, but at the public library, the clerks may do this. So, you know, it just, you know, it just depends. It depends on the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, it hasn't really been, I mean, sometimes I have to think for a minute, like, okay, how's it go here? Okay, I'm here, so it goes like this, you know. But no, it hasn't been, you know, too hard to manage. So,
Good. So you mentioned the different types of libraries. So a lot of people, when they think of library, they automatically think of public library, but you mentioned also academic library. So if you're looking to pursue a career to become a librarian, you can work in a school, elementary, high school, middle school, or at the college level. And be a librarian. So that would be an academic library. And then a public library is what Prince George's County Memorial Library System is. It's a public library system. And most of them are situated in small communities and neighborhoods where people who may live around the corner or down the street can access materials, not only within that library, but they can order materials from other libraries. And then in the academic library setting, you're mostly working with students. You're helping them get information to write papers. You're also helping them to learn how to use the materials in the library or the resources in the library, such as the databases, so that they can enhance their papers or projects. And then in a public library, you're doing a little bit of that. So you might have kids from the neighborhood schools come in and ask you questions, but mostly people are coming to check out materials. Maybe they want to attend some interesting programs and learn about some different things happening in the world. And you're mostly there to support people in the community, or you might be helping them learn about how to use the computer. It's two different settings. They mainly are there to help people gather resources, but just in different ways. So thanks for bringing that up. A lot of people don't know that about being a librarian. So the next question is, how has your field changed since COVID has come amongst us?
so in the college, we were approaching spring break, which I'm sure a lot of colleges were.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, you know, we were off for that week with the hope that maybe, you know, depending on if this was going to be something that they could control quickly, if we were going to come back, you know, to campus. They ended up extending spring break another week because it looked like, you know what, I think we're going to be going online the rest of the semester.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of professors that were, you know, nervous because they didn't know how to do transition to online courses.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know how their students were going to, you know, how they were going to do. But what happened was that second week, it's a spam call anyway. So that second week, we were having some trainings on how to use our online platform to do classes. I mean, the librarians don't necessarily are in charge of the online classes, but in case we were going to get questions from students or even faculty on how to do this, how do I access this? So I did attend some.
Mm-hmm.
And Zoom was also going to be something that was going to be used a lot. So there were some people that may not have known how to use Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also had to figure out what to do about our library instruction classes, because one of my jobs as an academic librarian is to teach library instruction. In other words, like let's say an English class like brings their class to the library for like a 1 day, 1 hour session on how to use databases for a particular topic for their assignments. And some of the teachers were like, how are we going to do this? So we had to transition our library instruction classes online, which I actually was able to do one.
Mm-hmm.
and it worked out just fine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and this the professor was really appreciative because this particular professor also worked in a high school elsewhere, so she was trying to figure that out, and of course students, a lot of students that I've talked to, whether it was in that class or on the chat platform, because we have a chat feature
Mm-hmm.
that we use both. Well, definitely we've used on campus, but more so off campus now that we are not there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and knowing that that people were there to help them, that wanted them to succeed in this hard time, that helped them, feel better about things.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely, lots of transition, but I mean, in my experience, it worked out okay. I hope it worked out, the best way for everyone. I know a lot of people, it has been hard for a lot of them because they're trying to balance, like, how are they going to study? There's not really a place at home where they can study because they might have kids or, other family commitments and
Mm-hmm.
all that. And then with the public library, we were doing I guess our curbside service, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. It wasn't really curbside. It was more like a walk-up window where
Mm-hmm.
we had a window where you can just walk up to the window and then we'd have your items ready for you to check out. You have to make an appointment to
Mm-hmm.
pick up your items that you have on hold to check them out.
Mm-hmm.
But today, ironically, they're actually doing a partial reopening
Okay.
where they're going to be like during the week, they're going to be open for like 2 shifts, like 2 3-hour shifts.
Mm-hmm.
In order, like one in the morning and one toward late afternoon, evening. And then on the weekend, it's just going to be one shift, like in the middle of the day.
Okay.
Um, for 30 minutes at a time.
Mm-hmm.
They want to come in to browse the shelves. They want
Mm-hmm.
to use the computer. They
Mm-hmm.
would have to, they can only use it for 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Or we do have our Wi-Fi that does go out to the parking lot. So if someone needs more than that,
Mm-hmm.
and they have like a laptop that they want to do some work, they can potentially sit outside
Mm-hmm.
and do some work.
Mm-hmm.
And also we have wireless printing. So we're trying to make things as easy as possible in this very uncertain time right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah, so what you talked about was access. So with the academic library, being supportive to the professors and to the students so that they have access to the tools that they needed to continue doing classes, but in a virtual environment. So with Zoom, learning more about the technology available so that you could support the educators to help support the students. And then for the public library, you talked about just providing access to materials. So doing the curbside or the drive-through window where customers could reserve their items, make an appointment, pick them up. That's similar to what we're doing here at Prince George's County Memorial Library. We're doing curbside right now. And then it seems like you guys are moving to phase two where you're allowing customers to come in and have access to the physical environment of the library, which we're not at that point yet, but hopefully we will get there, as long as we're able to socially distance and keep
Yeah.
everyone safe. So,
Yep.
yeah, so um, being a librarian is basically about support, depending on what's happening in the community, figuring out a way to still make sure everyone has access. So, that's a big part of being a librarian. So thank you for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
It can be very challenging right now dealing with what we're dealing with, but you seem to be supportive of everyone. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Next question is, how can our young folks who are still in school find volunteer opportunities to get started to becoming a librarian?
Well, so I'm not sure how they have it, like if they have like a summer reading down where you are.
Yes, we
They
do.
do. Okay.
Mhm.
So we do have, well, I mean, of course, this year our summer reading was online, so there wasn't too many volunteer opportunities, but let's putting aside COVID for a minute. Libraries have a lot of volunteer opportunities, not just summer. I mean, because we would have like teen volunteers to help with the kindergarten to sixth graders, fifth or sixth graders, like with their crafts.
Okay.
And we also have a Friends program,
Okay.
which did branch to a Junior Friends program.
Okay.
Where some like high schoolers would help the friends. Like we got our new library building for Goshen last year, and we have a bookstore now. So if you want to volunteer in the bookstore, or there's also other volunteer opportunities. We've had computer help desk, which actually my husband has done. So basically, it's just reaching out to your local library to see, like, depending on where your library is and what they can offer. There's always bound to be, there's could be a variety of volunteer opportunities. We've even had volunteer pages too.
Okay.
Like if someone needs, like, for example, high schoolers may need volunteer work, like for National Honor Society or other, other things. If you're going to community college, you might be in an honors program. Like where I am, we have an honors program where they might need volunteer hours. So it's basically going to your local library, doing your research, networking, asking questions, and I'm sure that they can always find something for you to do.
Yes. So I'm glad you brought that up with research and contacting your local library, because that's really the first step, just seeing what's available. Now that we are in COVID-19 times, I'm not sure what volunteer programs will look like for the library, because again, we have to stay safe, socially distance. But before COVID, like you mentioned, you could be a page where you could work on shelving or assisting with shelving, or if you're a teen, you could work on assisting with programs or assisting with young people. In our library system, we might have teens work with young children to help improve their reading skills or their comprehension skills with books. So yes, there's various opportunities that can happen in the library. And then you mentioned the Friends of the Library. A lot of people don't know that libraries have a group of people called the Friends of the Library. They are basically people in the community who advocate for libraries. Sometimes they raise money for libraries. A lot of times they will partner with the libraries that they're the friends for programming. They may go out to the schools and see what the schools need from the library so that we can improve to provide access to more resources. So yes, there's a lot of libraries that have friends groups. So if you are a young person or an adult and you would like to be a part of the Friends, you can contact your local library and they can connect you with the Friends group if you're interested in actively advocating for libraries. So thank you for mentioning that. A lot of people are not aware that there are friends that support the library. Next question is, what are key skills that young people should think about acquiring that apply to all career fields?
One big one, I think, is communication. Learning, definitely learning communication skills. Because any job that you're in, not just the library, but any job that you're in, communication is key to making, to making your job work, making it work for your, depending on your field, your customers, your patrons, any audiences, followers, it's definitely, I cannot stress it enough, because communication is what keeps it going. And, trying to, especially as a librarian, because one of the roles of being a librarian is to keeping people informed. And again, it's not just in the library field, but it's anywhere, but particularly a librarian. You want to give out the, correct information, right information, because you don't want to mislead anyone. You want to try and help them with the best, give the best information that you can. Sometimes as a librarian, you might not have the information. You might say, I'm sorry, but try to help them lead, help lead them in the right direction to acquire that information. So that, yes, that's definitely, that's, communication, research, because you want
Okay.
to know, I know I've said the word research a lot, but you want to know your job, you want to know your community, you
Mm-hmm.
want to know the history,
Mm-hmm.
you want to know your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
I think communication and research are two big ones. I know I'm probably missing some, but those were the two that came right to my head. So.
Right. So, yes, communication skills. So, you mentioned talking to customers. I think also communication with your coworkers. You're working side by side along with a team. You got to be a team player, be able to work with people, be able to communicate um, various things. In a library, we rely a lot on our coworkers. Sometimes we don't know the answer, like you mentioned earlier, but our coworker might know the answer. So getting support from your coworkers is very important. And then research, yes. A lot of times, believe it or not, librarians don't know the answer, but we know where to go to look for the answer. So yes, research is a huge one because we get various questions from the community and we have to be able to know where to go to look for that information. So when you're in school, a lot of it is just learning what's out there, as far as databases, as far as books, as far as internet search engines, so that you can know where to go to gather the information. I think also being a people person. I know when I first got into being a librarian, people were like, "Oh, are you going to just sit and read all day?" And I was like, "No, I'm going to
It's
help
more
people."
than that now, definitely.
I'm going to help people find information or provide access to information. So I think a lot of people think that librarians just sit around and, are complete introverts, but actually you have to be a little bit of an extrovert to work in a library. So a lot of different skills. And you talked earlier about time management. When you're in a library, you have to come up with programs. You have to come up with a schedule for those programs. You have to plan. A huge thing is being a planner, being able to come up with a plan. Maybe you're working with your team and you have a plan to execute a program in a couple of weeks, and you have to figure out a timeline for the plan, materials, maybe cost. So a lot of planning comes into place. So young people, right now, you can invest in some type of calendar, so you can keep track of your various appointments or your various tasks that you have to complete for school. And then you can come up with a plan, maybe sit down and come up with a list of things you need for that assignment or that appointment. And just try to get organized, because being a librarian, you have to be extremely organized, be able to understand what you need, when you need it, and how to execute it.
Yes, it's number three, organization.
Yes,
Definitely, yes.
you've got to be organized, because you never know what's going to happen each day. When you come in, you may have things planned out one way, but then someone comes in and has a question that took you a little bit longer than you had thought was going to take you. But you may have a program in the afternoon, so you have to be ready to also do that.
Number four, flexibility.
Yes.
As you're talking, they're coming back to me.
Yeah. So a lot of different skills come into play when being a librarian that some people might not think of, but they're there. The next question is, what resources or recommendations do you have for people who want to pursue a career in librarianship?
So, one of my main resources was the internet, a lot, because you have to, you know, if you're, there are a lot of like different websites um, that can tell you. Well, of course, well, I'm going to back up just a little bit. It also, to be a librarian, because sometimes, depending on your location, like in New York State, if you're in a town that's a certain population, like if it's below a certain population, you might not need a master's degree. You can probably go with a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree. So it's definitely doing research, a lot of, internet websites on the town that you live in, what may be required at certain jobs, and also even networking too. You may want to form a relationship with your local librarians. What did they do? How did how did they fare? What background do they have? Where did they go to school? Any advice that they may have, to fellow future librarians. So, and then of course, with different schools, depending on if you're out of state, you may want to research, what their tuition is, and any like scholarships that may be offered. So I that was just with my experience. I found those really, really helpful. And so that's what's coming to my head now. But
Yeah. So you mentioned talking to your local librarian. I think that's a great first step. Going to speak to the librarian, asking them what their journey was, how did they get to where they are. Also looking at different schools that offer the associate's degree, the bachelor's and the master's degree, seeing what requirements you need to get into those programs, seeing what the cost is, which is the tuition, are great avenues. And then seeing, do you have the time to devote to going forward with pursuing a degree? Because it does take a lot of time and effort, studying papers that you have to write. It's really something you have to be passionate about and really want to do. And earlier in our conversation, you mentioned just being a page or a clerk, working in the library or volunteering, just so you can see what it's like on a day-to-day basis for a librarian, so you can understand if this is something you really want to go forward with, because a lot of time and energy has to be invested for you to get to the point of where you can be a librarian. So yes, thanks for mentioning those things. And the internet is your friend, like you said, using it as a tool.
but make sure it's a reliable source.
Yeah, a reliable
Don't
source.
just go to jobs.com, because you
Right.
never know. Because um, if it's like usually, I mean, I want to say usually these library websites are .org, school websites are .edu. Like,
Right.
make sure the website name can definitely help you in determining if it would have reliable information. So
Right.
definitely make sure you're in the right spot.
Yes, so I'm glad you mentioned that. So with most libraries, when you look up a library system, it'll end with .info, INFO, or .edu, depending on where you go, or .org. So when you're typing in a website, so for example, Prince George's Memorial County Library is PGCMLS.info, it's a reliable source, or .gov. So when you're doing your research, make sure that if you're looking at any institution or any library system, that it usually ends with those letters at the end of the website. So yes, thank you for that. All right, next question is, what comments do you have about the industry that people just entering may want to know?
The industry is always changing. You have to keep up with the times. Like, I'm sure, like back in the day, you had your librarians that had to get used to computers.
Mm-hmm.
And now I would say most, if not all, libraries have, I mean, I want to say most because I don't know of all, have gone away from the physical card catalog.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, just like in real life, people have smartphones now. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't exist 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of learning to adapt, willing to change, and just, trying to keep up with everything, keeping up with today, basically. And I'm sure in the future there will be more things that librarians are going to have to get used to. A lot of books now, I mean, not all, I mean, because the libraries still have physical books, but they're also online now. Keeping up with where to find, this as an ebook, or even movies online. I mean, we have physical movies too, but we have also streaming services. Here we have Hoopla, where you can, borrow, some movies on your library card and watch them online.
Right.
You have like, for a certain amount of time. So, just keeping up with, technology, because technology is always changing and, improving, and just a matter of, continued. This job is, you don't just stop learning when you're done with school. You learn for the rest of your life, basically. So that saying, you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
That's definitely in this case. So
yeah, so
be prepared to learn and to adapt and to accept the change.
yes, so being adaptable and flexible to change, yes, that is a huge thing, not only for being a librarian, but for most professions. With COVID-19, we saw the transition to using technology instantly happen overnight. A lot of us may not have been familiar with some of the online platforms that we're having to use on a day-to-day basis now, when that first happened. So being able to quickly adapt and learn, being willing to learn, open to learn, is a huge tip we can give to people, because yes, everything is evolving with technology, and we have to be able to evolve with it and use it, get comfortable with it. So now is a really unique time. We're using a lot more technology than I think we've used before on a day-to-day basis, and just being comfortable with that and being okay if you don't know how to use a particular platform at first, but being willing to try and to learn. In any job, you're going to be learning every day. I think a lot of young people are under the assumption, hey, I got the degree, I'm going to get the job, that's it. All I need to know is what I learned in the classroom. But really, you're learning more on the job. Also, with being a librarian, you have to get what's called continuing education hours or credits.
It just came in my head. I was going to say that right after you were done, but yes, professional development. You're going to have to, take, and they're really, a lot of them are like 1-day sessions, or, maybe they go on over a week or a month, or like once a week for a month, something like that. But yeah, it's definitely something to keep up on. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that was perfect. A lot of people, especially our young people, don't know that. Usually, when you go into a lot of professions now, you have to have what's called continuing education credits or hours. Usually, you have a time frame to get those hours, maybe a year, maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's more years than that, but you're taking various courses related to your profession. So, like Melissa mentioned, you may take one that's a day or 2 days, or you may go to a conference. You may go out of town and they offer those continuing education hours there. And so you're learning about the field as it's evolving, as it's changing, as it's moving towards a new way of doing things. For example, right now with COVID-19, there's a lot of continuing education courses and hours on how to handle that, how to adapt the library to the changes that we have to make, how to use some of these online platforms for programs. So it's really interesting that you keep, like you said, learning throughout the process of your profession through those hours. So you never stop learning, young people. I
Mhm.
want to stress that. You just keep going.
But it can be fun.
Yes.
Conferences can be fun. Trust me.
Yes, so
Can
several
I just
professions offer conferences.
can I
Uh-huh.
just share one story?
Yes.
Okay, so our state has what they call NYLA, New York Library Association. They have conferences every year, except this year it's going to be virtual. But
Okay.
last year, the librarians, they get together and they play a game called Battle Decks, which is
Okay.
basically like an improv game
Wow.
where you have to do a presentation, but you do not know the topic of your presentation. You do not know the slides on the presentation. And you have like 4 minutes to make a coherent presentation. You have to get through all 12 slides in 4 minutes.
Wow.
Last year, they did it, they did teams for the first time because the previous years was just you alone. My
Hmm.
husband and I were a team and we got second place.
Oh, wow.
But my point is that the point I was trying to make was you can have fun at these conferences.
Yes.
Not just about learning, they throw fun in too. So
Yes. And a lot of these conferences are out of town. So you may get to go to a state you've never been to or a city you've never been to, and explore that town while also enjoying the different courses and trainings they have throughout the conferences. A lot of places that you work for will probably pay for most of the conference, if not all of the conference fees. So your flight there, your flight back. Maybe you have a hotel you're staying in. Maybe there's food involved. So I don't think a lot of our young people realize that a lot of professions support you in going to conferences. So travel can be involved. So it's a great opportunity for you to also network and meet people from other areas or to learn about their library system and how they do things. So, yes, very interesting to go to conferences. All right, next question is, do you enjoy what you do now?
yes. Yes, 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 yes.
Okay.
No, I mean, I've always loved helping people ever since I was a kid, like with, like even helping a friend with something or, but, helping people, find information that they need because, a lot of people may feel, lost for whatever reason or, might just need help, or maybe they need help like with, looking to find a job or looking to complete a resume or looking for directions. It's just and especially now in an academic library, helping the students with their education, because I've been there. I know how hard it can be, but I
Hmm.
also know how rewarding it can be once you complete some form of degree.
Hmm.
um, it's and seeing and a lot of them are very appreciative, if not everybody are very appreciative of if someone, or if I go to help them with something, how to show them how to do something, because sometimes with academic library we also might show them how to use something in Microsoft Word,
Hmm.
or or how to print, or how do you attach something in an email,
Hmm.
like any little thing can help, you
Hmm.
know and it's not just in your job, but even in life too. I've always I've always wanted to help, basically,
Hmm.
some form, some capacity.
Hmm.
And and also with the people I work with, we all strive toward the same goal,
Hmm.
being there for the community, being there for students, being there for patrons,
Hmm.
you know trying to give them what they need,
Hmm.
and even to libraries, again, they're a form of community.
Hmm.
Not just in a community college, in any college, even in public library.
Hmm.
It's all about working together,
Hmm.
which working together is, it's very big.
Hmm. Yeah, so being a team player and
Mm-hmm.
working with your team members or your coworkers is extremely important, not only for librarianship but for various professions. Most of the time you'll be working in a team. So being able to work with people is really important. And then you also mentioned community. Yes, libraries are all about strengthening communities, helping people get resources, helping people with entertainment, helping people gather together and, do the things that they want to do as far as using their library as a resource. I know before COVID, we had meeting rooms available for people to come together and collaborate on different projects. But now, we're not able to do that because of COVID. But maybe in the future, we can look towards how we can still help people come together and collaborate as a team or work together in teams. So the library can be used in various different ways. You talked about helping people with the computer. I know some people don't have computers at home or internet access, but they can come to the library, use the computers, get help from librarians on how to use the computer. So really keeping in touch with technology so that you can help people is very important. And then also just materials. Some people want physical materials, so being able to keep those updated so that people can get the most update information is important as a librarian. Also digitally, right now because of COVID, people are not able to come in physically to the library, but there's digital resources that the library um, wants to make available to people so that they can still have access to information. So that's also very important. The next question is when you first started out in your training or education, where did you think you would be? Did you think you would end up being a librarian, or did you think you would end up doing something else?
I was hoping, well, I shouldn't say I was. I was, but no, librarian was where I was looking to go.
Okay.
However, I did not expect academic.
Mm,
Because I had worked in public for so long. I have another colleague who is a librarian, and he told me, a while ago, even while I was in school, he was
mm-hmm,
saying to me that it can be difficult. Not that it's not impossible. Well, it's
mm-hmm,
definitely not impossible because it worked for me, but I'll get to that. It can be difficult to transition from like different forms of library. For example, let's say like in my case, I was working in a public library.
okay.
Let's say I wanted to work in an academic library.
Mm-hmm,
With academic libraries, um, like some, I mean, I don't want to say this for all of them, but some might want you to have academic library experience. And if
mm,
you don't, that could, it could potentially work against you. I mean, I don't want to say it will, but it could. The
mm-hmm,
reason why it worked out for me was because before I got my job as an academic librarian, I was working another job at the college in the admissions office.
mm-hmm,
And I had a chance encounter one day during the summer
mm-hmm,
on one of the picnic benches
mm-hmm,
with one of the librarians at the college.
mm-hmm.
She said, "Can I eat my lunch here?" Sure. I was eating my lunch there. And we just got talking. And she said, "Hi, I'm such and such. I'm one of the librarians." I'm like, "Oh, that's very, yeah, I'm actually studying to be a librarian."
Oh, wow.
6 months later, I saw her at the holiday party, the college holiday party.
Mm-hmm,
"How's it going?" She asked me, "How's your degree going?" "Oh, I'm only 2 classes away from graduating."
mm-hmm,
"That's great." And then I don't want to say as a joke, but I was, because I figured with an academic library, you'd have to have your degree.
mm-hmm,
But I was like, "Oh, are you hiring?" Even though I didn't have my degree yet. And
mm-hmm.
she goes, "Well, I mean, you can always submit your resume because you never know."
Mm-hmm,
So I did.
mm-hmm,
Didn't think much of it.
mm-hmm,
After we returned a few weeks later from the winter break,
mm-hmm.
I got an email from the director saying, "Would you like an internship?" After I
Wow.
already did my internship that was required for the program.
Mm-hmm,
But luckily, I was able to make it work.
mm-hmm,
And then, sure enough, a job opened a few months after the internship ended.
mm-hmm.
And well, let's just say basically the rest is history.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
so
So
it definitely it worked out. in a good way, you know. I mean, I'm open to working, and now, I mean, now with the academic library experience, because, you know, again, it can be different than public libraries.
Right.
Like if, you know, if let's say another job comes up in either academic or public, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm open to either,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a little more confident in either one of those, you know, types of libraries.
Right.
So,
So you brought up a very good point. Just talking with someone, networking. I think a lot of people take for granted having conversations with people. Asking them about their career could potentially lead to you having the opportunity to work where they work or have a job. So, um, young people and adults, if you're listening, have conversations with people. I know a lot of our adults are struggling to try to find employment if they lost employment during COVID, but you can still have conversations with people at any point in time, so that you can hear about a potential opportunity like what you were saying. You just were casually having lunch and someone wanted to sit there, and so you started talking about libraries, which opened the door for you to have an internship, and which potentially opened the door for you to have a career, at the library. So, I think some people take for granted the conversations that they could have with people, and that's with any profession, not just being a librarian. Maybe you're in a store and you're casually talking about, the place you are in, and maybe you want to ask them, hey, do you have any potential job opportunities? And sometimes there's opportunities that aren't even posted yet, that they may tell you about. And they may say, hey, we don't have anything right now, like you were told, but if you send your resume over, then you can potentially get a position when one is available. So just being open to having conversations with people is extremely important. And I hope that our viewers are taking this into consideration, especially the adults who are trying to find employment in the community. Is just being open to having conversations with people is extremely important. So thank you for that, Melissa. And one final question before we end our interview today, and it is, what are some resources that, well, this question is really for me. What are some resources that the library offers people who are new to the job market? Maybe they're changing careers or they are looking for a new, position, because COVID has caused them not to have employment. So, viewers, you can go to pgcmls.info. That's Prince George's County Memorial Library System.info, and you can access our online library. Once you go there, then you should be able to go to the jobs and careers section. And then there are three different areas that you can look at under that section. That's the Brain Fuse, the Career Transitions, and the Learning Express Library. There you can complete a career assessment if you would like, and that's basically where you answer different questions to get matched up with potential careers, that you may have an interest in, but may not have thought that you would be a good fit for. And then you can search for jobs, you can create your resume and cover letter, you can get expert feedback and receive interview tips from a live coach on job now. These resources are designed to help you, if you're a veteran. So if you're a veteran, you can also access resources specifically designed for you. Um, any teenagers out there, if you're preparing for college, there are resources available for that as well. And then for our experienced job, people in the community, you can brush up on some of your job skills. There's also step-by-step guidance to discovering your interest. Maybe you're trying to choose a new career. Maybe you want to find a school or educational program that will help you, with your, skills. Maybe you want to search for various job openings. There's also practice tests for college entrance exams, and citizenship. And then there's also tutorials and basic skills for math, reading, and writing. So whatever your interest is as far as support for employment, we have it on our website. And eventually we will be creating a whole workforce development, section specifically geared to people in the community. for workforce. We are still in the works of getting that completed. So please look out for that to happen soon on our website. Again, Melissa, it has been a pleasure to talk with you today. I hope that our viewers were able to learn more about librarianship as a profession. Maybe they want to just get their foot in the door and maybe look for page positions or clerk positions in the area. So thank you for joining us today. Viewers, thank you for tuning in. Please tune in each and every Wednesday for our career chat where we have a different person coming to talk about their career, their experience, hopefully introduce you to a career that you have never heard of before, or maybe you want more information about. And we are happy to assist you if you have any questions. We are currently still doing our curbside service. So if you'd like to check out materials, please contact us to reserve items and you can schedule an appointment to pick those items up. Again, viewers, stay safe, continue to socially distance, and we hope you will join us again next week as we meet with another person for Career Chat. Again, I'm Shannon Crooks. I'm a librarian 3 at the Hillcrest Heights branch, and thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you. Good luck,
Thank you.
everybody.
Appreciate it, Melissa.
Thank you, Shannon.
No problem.